Hello and welcome to the Germany Medicine Stories podcast. Please know that nothing that I or any of my guests say here is or should be misinterpreted as medical information or advice. These are personal stories, not prescriptions. Okay, welcome back after a long break. I know I'm always saying that, but it is what it is. Yeah, we have moved to the UK and um, the visa that we were planning on my husband getting, we realized like very last minute wasn't going to work. And so we had to go back to Canada for a few months. And yeah, just like kind of in the chaos of all of that and running another round of Sherlock. Um, Podcast fell to the side, but we are back. We have moved to England officially, bought our house, finished renovating almost. I have an office, for real office now. And yeah, lots of exciting things have been percolating and um, yeah, lots of really fun stories to share, especially which pertinent for today's guest, just with how like yeah, being back here with my family. So we moved to England to be near my family, my parents, my sisters, my grandparents all live now in this little town, yeah, in Devon, and yeah, anyways, it's just been really fascinating to be back in this like family soup after so many years, but like having with the knowledge of GNM, and it has really, really changed all of our relationships, really for the positive. So yeah, some of those stories I'm sure we're going to share on here in time. But today, my guest is actually my little sister, my youngest sister, Kezia, who has really had some amazing success stories in the past year. And today she's going to talk about resolving her KCT. And so the symptom, for people who don't know, is weight gain. So it's water retention. Um, and most of the time on here, we're talking about symptoms that come in the healing phase because most symptoms come after we resolve our conflicts. But the KCT is one of the symptoms that breaks from that pattern because the water retention happens during conflict activity. So while we're actively in the trauma. Um, and yeah, it's a very, very common conflict. And so if you have ever experienced weight gain, that's like, just clearly it's not related to like diet changes. It doesn't matter how hard you exercise, like it's not going anywhere. It's very likely the result of this biological adaptation. Your body is holding on to water for a purpose. It's a part of this intelligent adaptation. Um, and yeah, my sister was running this. I mean, she still is a little bit, we'll get into the whole story. But I think she's lost like 15 pounds in the past little while since she has identified and been like, very diligently working on downgrading the conflict. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it's our first KCT story on the podcast. They are, in my experience, some of the more challenging conflicts to resolve. They're just it's a very ancient adaptation. And and I also think that the kidney conflict, it's like it's the conflict of our culture as well. So it's um because it's so much about kind of this like fracturing of community and the lack of these like layers of support and under knowing that like no matter what, we belong and we have these safety nets. Obviously, we live in this world where like all our families are split all over the world and everyone um is exiling this person from their family or not talking to them anymore. And anyways, there's all these ways we can have a bigger conversation maybe another time around why I think it's such a prevalent conflict in our culture. But today, very fun story with my little sister. And yeah, I'm sure you'll get some interesting insights into me and my family as well. And yeah, she has been sharing also more of her resolutions. So she's also resolved her chronic pain and also like I think a decade of like very, very irregular cycles, like I think maybe like 8 months between periods. And so if you want to hear those stories straight away, I'm sure she'll be on the podcast sharing them soon, but you can go to her Instagram. It's Kezia Kellet, Kezia, Kellet, Kellet. Well, it'll also be in the show notes for this. But yeah, she's been sharing them there. So if you're interested, go check that out. And yeah, let me know what you think of this podcast. I also have a KCT story to share, but I'm still debating, like, do I share it publicly, or I might just share it inside of my Sherlock course, because I don't know, it's kind of personal. Anyways, hello again. Hope you're all well. Glad to be back. And yeah, stay tuned for more.
Well, basically, it all started. It's like
Your mom said you were fat.
yeah, I returned home from uni. And my mom very not gracefully pointed out that I had gained some weight at uni, and
Which we now lovingly refer to as fat shaming.
yes, because at the time I was very offended. I like stormed off. I was super angry, but like I think a lot of that was because there was some truth to it, and mainly that like I felt really powerless about that because I felt like I had been exercising a lot more in the past year, and yet like nothing was really shifting. And that's when like you came in. I was like, oh, there's actually
It's like, it's true, you have gained weight. You wanted my
yeah.
you wanted me to not be on mom's team.
Yes, but you were, and so I was like, okay, right. I'm gonna like figure this out. And but when I said like it doesn't feel like it shifts, that's when you were like,
In relation to exercise or what you eat.
yeah. That was when you were like, well, there is a conflict that this could be, a water retention conflict, the KCT, kidney collecting tubules, conflict, and maybe it's that. And so I asked what it was about, and it was a fish out of water. And instantly, when Freya said that, I was like, oh, that is the story of my life. I've always felt like the fish out of water. I've always felt like an outsider. And so I was kind of like, where the hell do I begin in finding this conflict? Because it's something that I felt for a long time. And for months, like I didn't find anything. I had a couple of theories, I went down it, but like nothing changed, nothing shifted. And then probably like 2 months ago now, so like 6 months after the initial
After Fat Cake.
after Fat Cake, I
Which you hilariously, before we started recording, called Fish Cake.
And like you came home from a hike and was like, oh my gosh, guys, Matthew and I met our new best friends. And this is not the first time this has happened. And we live in a small fisherman's town where like meeting people can kind of be hard sometimes, but Matthew and Freya find like their exact people every time they go out.
Yeah, because we just don't have, like, I think not, we have plenty of conflicts,
yeah,
but we don't have conflicts. Like for me, I'm just like, oh, friendship is easy. Like,
yeah,
it's and not only friendship is easy, but like I have really whatever niche views about the world, and I'm like, but there's so many people who share those. So it's just being like, so then that just ends up being true.
yeah.
Whereas like you have been here and you're like, I don't meet anyone.
I don't meet anyone with my, like, I've met people, but like no one that's like sees the world the same way. And so that was like my immediate reaction. It was like, why does this never happen to me? I always meet the same type of people.
And what, Kezia, what are the same type of people?
They're the people I went to uni with. And I went to a very liberal arts and science uni where everyone was gay, everyone was vegan, everyone was very, very liberal. And
it was a lot of years because you also went
yeah,
to like,
so it's 3 years of that and then 2 years of a master's, which is basically in the exact same environment.
yeah.
And so like it came to the point where I honestly believed there was like no other people in the world, like because I would never meet like anyone else. And this this is also like no shade, like most of my friends are like these people, but like, and they all know my frustration of like I just wish that I also had friends who share the same opinions as me or like who had the same lifestyle as me. And that's kind of where we finally had a breakthrough because you said, like, what do you still have to learn from these people? Like, if you're subconsciously always gravitating towards these people, like, what do you have? Like, why?
Right. Oh no, I remember why, because it was like, yeah, we had just met these people.
Yeah.
And also, like, you're like, the only people that I meet in this town are the liberals, like, are the gays and the vegans. And I was like, I've literally never seen like somebody who would fit that mold in this town. Like, it's not even like rural Devon, like that is not the vibe. And yeah, that's still who you meet. And so anyway, it's just like obvious as like with most of our comics, how you just like when you have the conflict, you then become like a magnet for the things perpetuating that. So yeah, anyway, so I was just trying to like I don't know, I was trying to what can I ask you that could help you like see it? And I think that's what I said. What did I say?
Yeah, it was like what lesson in like a very meta way, like what lesson
Yeah.
do you still have to learn from these people? And so I went down
Because you were like you're on the surface, you're telling me that like you reject them because your tension has always been like between like, okay, let's say our family who like shares particular set of views and then the like schooling group that you went with that you were a part of. And it's like, okay, you're saying that you don't align like values wise with them, and yet you still keep like finding yourself there. So like why?
Yeah, so I was doing the same cycle over and over again, and I was always kind of finding that again, I was always the fish out of water, I was always the odd one out. And I went downstairs after this conversation and I just like started thinking about it, and I found it pretty quickly. And the funny thing was it was a conflict to do with Freya. And you know, many people who listen to this might know Freya from her Instagram days of being a dangerous woman. And in her prime, like
I'm past my prime in case anyone
exactly. And but like very, you know, she was known for like pushing boundaries and for saying things that were controversial to the mainstream. And this was like in its peak in COVID, and that's where the KCT started. And also like looking back at like photos of myself, and I was trying to figure out like when did this conflict begin? Like that is kind of when the water retention like did begin, was in uni.
Okay, which is basically 2020.
2020.
That's like
So,
you basically you went to Holland. Like you
in
started
2020. Yeah, and I started university in COVID, like in lockdown, in like
it was into the summer of 2020, right?
yeah. So like we weren't allowed to go out, we weren't allowed to like
Jeez.
there was like there was some, it was lax for a little bit, and then like it did lock down, and it was quite intense.
Okay.
And so like it was a very, very intense
I
time.
think it's like helpful to a little bit more like context. So you like she went to school. So we grew up in Canada. Anyways, it'd be like all went separate ways. Our parents moved back to England. They were they were there then.
Yeah.
But you had just started university in Holland. I was in Canada.
Yeah.
Our other sister was in Hawaii. Like we were all over the place. So you were starting a new place without any like
No
family, you knew nobody. And then you started during COVID.
Yeah.
Which was like
the most polarizing time of the world.
And then you are stuck between like two extremes, one being like the super intense, like liberal, we wear masks, we whatever, like vaccines.
But like if you don't get, if you're even considering like not getting a vaccine, like you are
you're killing your elderly.
And like then Freya being like, and she doesn't even remember doing this, but like she would send me like videos and like voice Marco Polo videos of being like you cannot get this. You're gonna die, like you're gonna be infertile. You're like, I can't believe mom got it. Like I just can't talk to her right now. So like
but I think, and I'm sorry, one more piece to add to that. Again, I don't remember sending these voices, but I accept that I did. But also it's not just like it wasn't just like, oh, I think this is bad for you.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure conveyed that I felt it was like morally incredibly wrong.
Yes.
And that if you had any backbone whatsoever, you would never wear a mask and you would certainly not get vaccinated, and you would tell everybody at your school.
Yes. And also, like, I think even more important context, like Freya, not to stroke her ego, but like has always been like my biggest role model growing up. And she's like also the one who's always like made me question like mainstream views, made me like like develop my critical thinking and like political ideas, for better or for worse. And so like in this and
sorry, one other piece, also had like this public profile.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
You couldn't just like have the sister who was like whatever, everyone has like extreme family members, but like
It was
yours
public.
was also very public. So if
Yeah.
anybody like found my page,
I would be like, yeah, and I had that fear of like,
yeah,
anyone finds my sister's page, I'm gonna get canceled by association.
yeah.
So I like never mentioned her name during uni. I also, but like, and so in this state, like I honestly can't remember ever feeling like this anxious about like anything. I've just felt like so much pressure from Freya, and then so much pressure from the community around me, which like I needed my community, the people around me. Like we weren't allowed to really go out. We couldn't really meet other friends. Like I needed the people who I was living with to
You
like,
had no family, you had
yeah,
no structure. Like, and if
exactly.
we're talking about like the kidneys, like the KCT program, it is so much that like foundational like support around you. Like you had none.
Yeah,
And so then you had to basically align with the people that were like on
exactly.
your floor. That's still who you could hang out with, right? The
Yeah.
people on your floor.
Yeah, I couldn't, yeah. We lived in like a residential building and we were pretty discouraged from even like going to other floors. Like we were kind of just stuck with people. And so yeah, I kind of just had to make a choice of like, and I wouldn't even say it was like a choice between my, at that point, like my opinions and like masses, because I actually don't think I had the ability to form my own opinion because I was
You're
like
so
so
anxious.
anxious and so pressured on the other side that like I actually like didn't care. I didn't really know what to do. I just like didn't want to be put in the middle and I didn't want to like have to make a choice. But I did. And in that moment, like I chose people I was living with.
How dare you?
I know. And I stopped talking to Freya for like 2 years. It wasn't like we didn't like blow up or anything. I just like I stopped being able to reply to messages. Like it was like I had such a block. I basically just buried my head in the sand and I couldn't do it. And that kind of just set a precedent for the next 5 years of like really appeasing and like not questioning or not that I didn't question. I could not question like really fully go against like the mainstream. At least like I couldn't commit to an opinion or like commit to a side. And that wouldn't be that I wouldn't like be arguing. I would always be kind of the odd one out, the one that was like playing the devil's advocate. But it like
But it
path
was never as if you actually had that
no,
opinion. You
like
would hide
pathologically, yeah,
behind. Yeah.
pathologically I couldn't actually like say what I meant. Like I would play the devil's advocate. I would even like say opinions that like I didn't even have or care about. I would just always play the opposite because like I think like it's creating multiple layers of like you guys don't know what I you guys don't know what I believe and you'll never know what I believe because I'm just like playing a game. But I couldn't get out of it. Like and I remember watching myself do it, be like, I hate this right now. Like why am I doing this? I still like I can't stop doing it. And so yeah, I saw that moment and I went back upstairs and I confessed all of this to Freya and Matthew. And it was actually the first
I apologize.
yeah, yeah. But it was also the first time we ever talked about it. Like
Yeah.
we started talking 2 years later around the time of your wedding.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of brushed off the fact that we hadn't talked for years. And now like we live together, we still hadn't talked about it for the first 8 months of living together.
I mean, I guess for me, I like from my side, I was like, I was so in my own like
Yeah.
fucking COVID hell that like it didn't
Yeah.
even really occur to me.
Yeah.
But okay, also I maybe just in a side note, like I think this is just an interesting, like completely aside from the KCT. Well, it's not really a complete aside. Like it's a part of it all. It's just like this is for me why like knowing GNM and yeah, seeing the way that people develop conflicts, like the patterns of that has made me realize like that being dogmatic like really doesn't support health. Even like, and I thought like I was being dogmatic around health, right? It was like, okay, I
Yeah.
think if you get this, like you're going to die or you're not able
Yeah.
to have babies or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I was giving you a health crisis
Yeah.
by trying to prevent one. Like I see that so clearly now,
Yeah.
how like everything, like the dogma of the alternative health world just like proliferates symptoms
Yeah.
like unconsciously. Anyways,
Absolutely. And also like we'll get to I think like later on why this conflict even happened for me. Like why like I was not able to take up my own space to the point that like I just had to choose a side rather than just standing by myself. But yeah, anyway, I came up, confessed this to you, we had a good laugh about it. I like said all the things I need to say, and we hugged it out, and which is a rarity. Freya doesn't like to hug. Um,
Thanks for outing me.
yeah. And then like basically immediately after that conversation, I had this like radiating heat from my where my like from my back on my right hand side where my kidneys are. And so I was like, okay, we found it. Like this is it. But also
Because that would be like a signal that she's gone into the
yes.
healing phase, and
to some extent, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like I've had that with other conflicts as well, where there's like you feel like at least a subtle change in the body when you know you've hit the right thing. And so yeah, I had that, and that lasted for like the evening, and then but with like brainstem adaptations and specifically the KCT, like it's such an innate survival thing. You can't just have a perceptual resolution or be like, okay, we've talked about this and it's fine, and I can now like express my opinions to you, because I don't think it wasn't the fear from you like
no, because we
yeah
had a very like
yeah
we would always
yeah
have open conversations.
open
That's fine.
conversations and debates. Like the fear was always like with with this other group of people that I always like gravitated towards.
Friends.
Yeah, with my friends. Exactly. And oh, I was gonna say, oh yeah, the KCT, like it's not just like the fish out of water conflict. Like there's like different conflicts within it, or like of what it could be. And like mine, the way I like perceived this experience was like I was always on the fear of exile. Like and that's like a very you need the group to survive. And I thought like
Especially like during the fire of COVID. Like,
yeah,
especially
yeah, exactly. We were all isolated. We needed the group to survive. And so like I was always on the fear of exile. Freya had a very public account that was like basically
gonna be the reason.
gonna be the death of me. So I was like constantly like on this fear of like of tripping up and of saying the wrong thing and then like losing all my friends basically. Um and yeah, so that was the initial like
I think so. I understand it's helpful. It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna lose my friends and like, wow, that's so sad. It's like,
yeah,
like, and I'll be dead. Like,
yeah,
because like, but from a biological perspective, like, if you have nobody, you are dead. You know.
yeah.
So.
I remember like this is the group that I chose that was going to be like my link to survival during COVID, and so like it was very very I was terrified of like losing my friends. I was terrified of them like thinking I was a bad person, or like I don't know, just like anything. Like there was like a moral standard, and I just was that like it was very black and white. And even if I believe things that were like different, I just felt like and felt like I was still like more morally good. I felt like I yeah, would be extricated for that reason. So like it was a very 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 big fear of mine, and yeah, like I said, it made me basically unable to say like to have an opinion for so many years, or like not to like fully state what I thought.
Which meant then you were like continually attracting this like contradiction of people who didn't
yeah
share your
and like
beliefs.
constantly being like, okay, like I know my views, I know their views, but they don't know fully like my views, and so like if and like then I will be exiled. Like I will never find, and because I only ever found these people, like I only believed like these people were the only ones who existed in the world. And yeah.
Okay, so we had this conversation. You had like a bit of the kidney pain, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like, so it was a sign like, okay, after many months of like trying all these different tacks of like what your conflict could be, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
And like you kind of had cleared it up with me.
Yeah.
But then there was like
the friends.
the friends you had
Yeah.
to like how do you solve that? And like that wasn't going to be an immediate solution because it still felt really real for you, even though like you aren't at either of those universities anymore. Like you're living like around your family, which you know all shares like more
Pretty
or
much
less
the same views. Yeah.
So like the reality is like in the here and now, you're actually like totally fine and safe.
Yeah.
But you had to like
I had to, like,
catch up, like your past and your present had to like
Yeah. And so that's where like you can't just have a perceptual resolution with
well, you might be able to, like
maybe.
I think you could. It's not like
Yeah.
but it is just hard.
Yeah, it's harder, and I and like needed the proof, I guess, like the tangible proof that
You couldn't just be like, oh,
life's okay.
I'm so safe.
Yeah.
It had to be real, and you
Yeah.
could only really prove that yourself by like
putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And so it started like it was funny. I like basically I now kind of do or like following in Frank's footsteps a little bit, and then I like really got into G&M. I was already studying psychology kind of before, and then switched over to like this perspective because it made a lot more sense to me. I was studying it for a few months, and then wanted to start practicing it with people. And who's the best people to start practicing with, like your friends. But G&M's also quite a controversial opinion or a controversial view in the world. And so I felt like quite stressed about that, and like not, and I do have some friends who, when I first told them about it, they're very like viscerally no, like this is like bad. No, I don't like it. No, I don't want to talk about it. And I also had friends who were like pretty open to it, but it just like it clearly was still like a controversial hot topic. But I started messaging my friends and being like, hey, do you want to be my guinea pigs? And I had a lot of like positive response. I mean, to be fair, I was messaging the ones that I knew at the start would respond well to it. But as like I became more and more confident, I like started sending it to like groups that I like knew would respond badly to it.
How you did that?
Yeah, I know.
Like okay, you like she would like go into your like
My
master's
like
program,
uni,
like,
yeah, my like uni chats and be like, hey guys, like here's an alternative thing. Anybody interested? And like most of the time I got like either silence or
like a Wikipedia article.
Or a Wikipedia article on like Gerd Hammer and like people being like, I've only heard, is this a cult? Kind of like I don't trust this, whatever. But I just like I gradually just had
and did you not like as you started texting people, you would also feel the
basically
right?
I would text people, and I think it was maybe like I text people and they were like super positive about it, and then I had this like really big stitch in my kidney for like the last of the day, and I started noticing it even more and more like anytime I was like sharing my opinion.
Because then you were actually at your like job at the cafe, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I was at my I was working at a cafe, and my coworker was like, "Oh, I came across your sister's Instagram." And okay, flashback to 4 years ago, someone else also told me this, and I like went into a full mental breakdown of like, "Oh my God, no. Like my biggest fears have come true." And that actually triggered me starting to talk to Freya again. That time.
Oh, back
yeah.
4 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago now.
Because that person didn't think I was bad.
Yeah, that person didn't think you were bad, but it was like I was still so viscerally like panicked.
Yeah.
Anyway, the person in the cafe was like, "Yeah, I saw your sister's Instagram. She's quite intense, but like but fair enough. Like I don't find it any like it that bad, you know, like."
And you got the kidney pain then too.
And I also got the kidney pain then. I would just like start to notice it like whenever I started posting on Instagram my G&M stories. I started being like a lot more open about
right, because I guess we haven't said that on this podcast, but like
yeah,
you'd already had big wins. Like you already resolved several like your kidney pain and your like missing cycles. So
yeah, or like my chronic pain and my missing cycles.
What did I say?
Kidney pain. I was under now.
Yeah. And so
I had a lot of
I think that's also part of this because like just because kidney stuff, like the KCT, I think is a harder conflict to solve.
Yeah.
And so like people, if you're trying to do that when you have no other experience of like of how the process works, pretty challenging. But you did. And so that's also like we're going to share those stories in the future, but I think it's helpful to say like this wasn't the first.
No, definitely. And I wouldn't have not found it. Like and I needed also like to come out to like Instagram and be like, this is what I believe in, and like to my friends, like I'm not very quick to doing that, obviously. That's what this whole story is about. And so like I only really got to that point by being like I said like there was like two chronic symptoms I had. It's like if I can solve these, like I'm sold, you know? And I did. I solved them, and so I was like, this is legit, like this is what I really believe in. And that I think like is why it was so significant to start sharing about it and sharing my stories and reaching out to people to work with, because I was like, I believe in this. Like this is controversial and I am like not backing down. I believe in this. But also then there was a really big resolution. And the reason it was big is like if we go back to our original conversation where you're like, who are you like most afraid of?
Yeah.
There was one friend in mind who I was most afraid of like having like coming to blows with, of like her disapproving of me.
Because she was one of like
She was
one
kind
of
of
your
like
closer friends.
yeah, she's one of my closer friends. She's also like very similar to Freya. I think like I perceived them both as like a bit of like a moral authority of like, and they were both really like, you know, similarly they both really care about people. They just see
There's a different take
they
on
just
that
have
means.
a different take on what
Yeah.
that means. But like yeah, I guess like the values was there of like this is more morally what's right or morally what's wrong. And it's funny because they're like the opposites at the same time. But so like I did have like a friend who I was like really and she also I already knew that she like really didn't like J&M. So yeah, I was like if there's someone I'm most afraid of like having this conversation with, it's her. And a few weeks ago now, we were together. We
You
went
guys went on away for the weekend.
yeah, we went away for a weekend, went to a concert. And the whole weekend I was like very just like GM this, GM that, GM like just mainly to trigger the conversation. Like I couldn't do it like fully yet.
Because you basically like you knew now that
Yeah.
you know what the conflict is, like you knew you had to just like keep practicing
Yeah.
until it felt safe. And so this was like a prime opportunity. Like you
Yeah.
were pushing yourself to do that. It wasn't like easy.
Exactly. Like I could feel the tension. I could feel like she was kind of disapproving of me. And I was like, like how much can I push this until she confronts me, until she's like, Kezia, I don't like this. And she did. And the last day she's like, there's something I just like can't with this, like can we talk about it? I was like, sure, like let's go for it. And yeah, and we had like a really good conversation. She admitted to like things that she got triggered with about it, and we like kind of looked into that a bit. But the main point that I like was really pivotal for me was that she was like, I'm just afraid if you believe X, Y, and Z, you believe this as well. And like in the moment, I didn't again like I didn't know what I believed necessarily. It wasn't something I had super strong opinions on or like super a lot of knowledge on. But I was like, honestly.
Well, it was vaccines.
Yeah, it was vaccines. Yeah, it was vaccines. But I wasn't like, oh, I
No, you don't like have this. It's not
don't-
like GNM means you have to feel a certain way
No,
about vaccines.
no, but it was just like, yeah, she was just afraid that like if I believe this, like that's what I'm gonna propagate, and the like she has a lot of fear about that. And I could like feel myself having two options. Like I could either go the way that I would have gone all the way through uni, which is where I like subtly start to morph my conclusion so that it matches like hers, or I could go honestly like we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. And not only that, but I was like, if this is a line for you, like if like you can't be friends with me, if like you just decide like this is too much and you can't agree to disagree, like that's your choice and I respect that. And like obviously I'll be sad, obviously I love you, but like I am not going to hide what I believe anymore, and like you're just gonna have to take it or leave it. And like that was like really significant for me because not
it was. Yeah, like I'm laughing because I know you. So like saying
Yeah.
I agree to disagree. And, like,
yeah, this has become like a game in the house of like, Kezia, you can agree to disagree, but also like in that moment, like I was saying all of this, and I also knew that it was true. Like I wasn't just lying. I wasn't just being like, like I wasn't in a state of panic. I was like definitely resolving another thing as well, but like I wasn't in a state of panic. I was,
and it was also full circle because it was basically the original topic.
Yeah, it was the original topic of the conflict. And yeah, and I like walked away from that conversation, and we both walked away from the conversation being like, I love you, like this is not going to change our friendship, like we're fine with each other. We're gonna have to learn how to agree to disagree, and that's great.
Which was like your first time like realizing, and that's what I was trying to say to you before, but you had to like see in reality. I was like, people love you. It's actually fine. Like most people can withstand like ideological differences.
Yeah. But I just always be like, no, I'm gonna die. which is like most conflicts. It's like you don't think mine is a big deal. I don't think yours is a big deal. But like to ourselves, it's like we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I walked away from that conversation. I went to my friends and I
It
was
was a
like,
Sunday, right?
yeah, that was a Sunday. Walked away from that conversation. Went home to my friend who is one of my friends who's into GNM, so it was a win. And was kind of like, yeah, I had a great resolution, like great conversation there. Still trying to process it, still like letting it like be real. Like I think at that point I was still like, I have to trust that she means what she says, that she still loves me. You know, like I really had to feel like that was true, and I'm not going to. And so I was focusing on that.
That's an interesting thing because it's like, yeah, you could have just been like, yeah, like what am I trying to say? You had to have a willingness to be like, I'm actually going to let this go now.
Yeah.
Like because like you also did a choice point there of like, well, maybe she doesn't really believe it. Maybe she is like,
no, and that's kind of where it was. I was like, okay, I have to either choose like I'm gonna believe what she says, or I have to be okay with like if she's not saying the truth, like then that's also her choice. Like she can make that decision. And I was fine with like both. Like it just like was taking a little bit to get like the blocks, and I was mainly having to like just reaffirm it and like make sure that like I actually felt this. And then the next day I like left my friends, I started driving south, and I could already feel the sore throat then. But that's like that was a different conflict resolution, I think.
Well, it's like it's
rapid.
very common that like when you have a big like thing like there's not just one conflict. There's going to be like
yeah. And
like
I know the other conflict that was involved. It was like when I was in that conversation with her, I could feel like that there was like a panic there. It wasn't the KCT panic. It was like it was that I have to disagree with this person, or like I have to say something this person doesn't want to hear. I think like a speechlessness. And so it was
so the larynx. So
it was the larynx.
So she had like the kidney, and then the larynx, which is like a totally different germ layer.
Yeah.
And yeah, like a scare, fright, speechlessness conflict, which like again, just because I know you, it's like looking back, like it makes so much sense. Like not only you have me, who's like a really intense sister. You
all of my are very intense.
Our other sister
and
is also,
parents.
yeah, I guess.
Everyone.
We're all very strong characters, and so like, and you being the youngest, you're like definitely the peacekeeper and the like, yeah, like you've always, I think, like had to like work with or like with trying to say what you actually need and like even like not mumbling and not like just like like not actually like claiming your words almost.
I would say like what I realized, because like I got the sore throat, and I realized, okay, like I've had the sore throat twice in the summer following some like dinner conversation, really like lightly in the summer, following some dinner conversations where with family where
you actually stood up for yourself.
Where I stood up for, or I felt where I felt like unfairly called out on something, and I like stood up for myself, and then I got the sore throat. And that like panic that I felt when I was having this conversation with my friend was like the same that I would have felt like many times over the years when like faced with like this situation, with having to like stand up for myself, with having to say something to disagree. Agree to disagree. I think more was like say something that the other person doesn't want to hear. And when I was younger, I like wouldn't do that. I would just like I would shut down. We would have conversations, and you and our other sister would like
or beef out.
You guys would like take over, and I would just kind of like shut down, bury my head in the sand, and just like not really participate. And so like this felt like a really huge resolution on that conflict as well, because for once I didn't bury my head in the sand, and I didn't like and I said, I agree to disagree. I said the things that someone else doesn't want to hear. And so the next morning I was already feeling the sore throat. I like went on a hike, and I was having the whole processing moment about this whole conversation, and it mainly kept coming down to like, okay, my survival no longer is linked to like this group of people. Like and that doesn't mean they're not my friends, like they are, but like I like don't need to I don't need to agree. I don't need to like always.
Well, also I think it's probably helpful to say like if we're talking about like KCTs like often really requiring practical resolution, like practically you had this conversation with a friend, but also practically you were no longer at university. You were now living in a town with your two sisters, your parents, your grandparents, whom like we're all like committing to, like being a part of each other's lives, supporting each other.
No
We have
matter
shared
what.
values.
Yeah.
Like that's a very like solid foundation. It's
Yeah.
like the ideal like KCT rehabilitation.
It really
over
is.
here.
It really is.
You know, like you're living in the house with me, you know.
Yeah.
Or we were at that point all living in our parents.
Yeah.
And so that practically was also in place. So
Yeah.
it's like both those things you you had somewhere to go. You had like the water to go back to.
Yeah.
If you had to go back to university, it was like, well, you wouldn't compromise it. But
No,
like
no.
because you had like the safe family
place, I didn't
situation.
need to keep like
Yeah.
my
So
safety
you
everywhere.
actually could like that, like it was like on that hike is the moment where you were like, oh, like old you,
Yeah.
current situation, like the two situations could like meet and like your body could be like, oh, actually, like I'm here now.
Yeah.
And so I don't need to run this adaptation anymore.
Yeah. And often like when I have like a resolution on a conflict like this, or like when I see what the conflict's about, like I do spend a lot of time just like trying to get like all of the little dark corners in my psyche and like bring them all out and be like this is different now. Like I'm safe now. Like I don't have to run the same adaptation anymore. And so like that's what I was doing on this hike. I was just like over and over and over again being like, I'm safe. My survival is fine. Like I have people who love me. And even my friends who disagree with me, they love me. Like all of this like fun resolution. And I got home, or I got back to, I was staying at another friend's who she wasn't there, but it was in her like little cabin, like a wood fire stove for the night. And I got there and like pretty immediately I felt pretty rough. Like I started developing a fever. I also started like peeing profusely, which is like also a KCT like resolution symptom is letting go of the water retention. And so I yeah, for like a couple hours just like kept needing to pee. And then started this fever. And I've never had a fever like that in my life. Like I've had fevers that maybe last like 24 hours. This one fully lasted like an entire week. Like an entire week where I still had to drive home the next day, like 2.5 hours, with a peak fever, and I was feeling very, very rough. And then
I mean, yeah, none of us have ever seen you that sick before.
no, like I was not functioning. And I was like having lots of night sweats, which is also a big KCT resolution symptom. And I was just like in bed dead and like couldn't speak because again, speechlessness conflict was resolved. So larynx, and it took me like a while to bounce back from it. But again, like I was like, I mean, we were kind of still celebrating even when I was.
When you came to my high, give you a big high five.
Yeah, because I knew I had healed this, like, or not, and I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's fully healed. Like I would say like it's kind of continuously
downgrading
and downgrading. I just like need to keep convincing myself and like need to keep
like there's still certain topics which for you you're like no, like that one you're like
that one is not going to be safe. Which like I do, it's kind of like a list of things I know that will heal my KCT fully, and it's just kind of like slowly working through it as comfortable for me, and knowing that I'm gonna have to going to have to like sit with the discomfort and like sit with like doing things that like scare me. And I think like that's what you were saying one time is like that a lot of people have KCTs kind of on this, and it's like you have to do the thing that like honestly feels like the death of you. And that's like what I've been starting to do, and same with like sharing more and more on Instagram, losing a lot of followers from sharing that, sharing like different stories, and fair enough. But it's like very, very freeing, and also
and you've lost like 15 pounds.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And like in that like fever state alone, like there was like probably half of that. Like so
I mean you look really different.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I just want to say, because I thought it was a funny moment, was like after this whole thing, like this particular healing moment had happened, and then I was like, okay, so like you can talk about like this subject that I know, like, I'm not gonna mention on here or whatever, but this because I know the subjects that you're still like don't want to talk about people with, and I was like, I guess I could see me go into my conflict where I get really fucking intense and like because I was then just like railing into you about how you had to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then I think we both had a moment of like, oh, you're like this is the like version of you that like puts
me into this conflict, like and so
which I think has been just like in general
is
gonna come up, I'm sure, in other conversations we have, like sharing other stories. Like it's been very interesting based like the past year, like because our family has been apart for a long time, but, like the past year we've all been more or less like living together. And having like the like framework of GNM has like
changed everything.
Yeah, it's completely changed how we've like related together. But it's like it's just been very interesting. Okay, like as because I've obviously been like doing the GNM thing on myself and other people for more years, but it is very different like doing it sort of together in a family unit. Well, it's not only we, as in like not our parents aren't doing anything, but
as sisters,
you have like the constant like mirrors of like all your conflicts in the other people around you, and you can be like, oh, like I really see like you see the full the origin, like it's all just playing out right around you, so it's very, I don't know, it's quite easy to
and it's been like really beautiful, really. Like I've never really had people around me like pushing me and like and like calling me out like so profusely like everything, and it goes every way. It's just like you have to be honest with each other, and it's just like really helped. And it's same
and I think you have to be honest with each other, but like there's like a, as the receiver of the very unpleasant, we had a very uncomfortable conversation in my direction this morning.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna say that. It's like even
because it's part that I'm like, I'm willing to hear other people say things to me that I don't want to hear, because I understand now that there's a connection between like willing to be like the humility of hearing other people's reflections of you, and like, okay, if I actually let myself be like at least like 10% not defensive towards this, like I might resolve, because I was asking explicitly for your guys' help in trying to resolve something this morning,
and then she was like, no. But
a little bit of me has heard what they were saying, and like you're much more willing to receive the feedback because you understand the connection between the feedback and no longer having the physical symptom that you want gone. And also understanding the connection between like the psychological turmoil and the physical symptom. Anyways, it's been very interesting.
And if you like go back to like, you know, Fatgate, like I had to like,
does mom know we haven't moved
forward? You told her that we call it that now. But like I was like really, really upset, and I had to just like, you know, and then like I went to your other sister, and you're both like, no, Kezia, like you have to listen, like it's true. And like it was a very humbling experience. But like also so cool because it was a conflict, and like it's absolutely like changed now. And also like the KCT is one like you really want to solve, because like it can exacerbate other symptoms.
Well, and the reality of like when you live with a KCT, it's not fun because you're creating a distance between you and other people. It will stop you from finding people, not because you were incapable of finding people that are similar to you, or you're incapable, or that even the people that you think you have this conflict with, I'm sure don't give a fuck. Like they love you for many other reasons other than your political beliefs. So it's like it's complete, like as most comments are, like this like false construction, but it's like stopping you from like basic human connection.
Yes, and it definitely was like. It's because it is. I just felt like a fish out of water for like so many years, like, and
completely unnecessarily, because you're like a lovely person. Like you didn't need to.
Yeah. Well, thanks. But yeah, and like while I was, and when I was younger, I loved being the fish out of water. Like I loved kind of being a bit on the outside, and it was only really in uni where like being the fish out of water was like suddenly a survival threat
because of the context.
Because of the context of everything. Because like suddenly like to not be like gung-ho on exactly like one perspective, and like not even considered it, like both sides basically like saw the other as like
demons.
The demons. Demons, like, and so like to love like both demons it was like to not like I just like couldn't do it. And so it's been great. And it's also like I had an experience yesterday as well, where, you know, in one of the uni chats where I like where I said like hey guys, like I'm working with G&M. Is like anybody interested in being guinea pig? And I got a response of like, yeah, a Wikipedia article and being like, this sounds dangerous, this sounds sus. Um, Probably would have sent me into a mass panic like a year ago. And this time I was like, oh, I feel like a little discomfort about it, but like, oh well. I don't care. Like I don't, it's fine. We can agree to disagree. And that was also the fun part about like having GM with family because like yeah, that's been basically Freya's like motto with me for the past few weeks. And
Like literally be like
with
they're
like paint
paint
colors
colors.
in the house. And she's like, Kezia, what do you think? And I'll be like,
Because she'll like agree with me, and I hate that because then I find out later that she actually didn't like the paint color. We're
yeah,
practicing agreeing to disagree.
yeah, it's been great because like in the family context, like know everyone knowing Gina and everyone knowing like what people's tracks are and like what they're trying to work on. It's like you guys all know that like I need to start saying my opinion, and so anytime I like say something, like I get like a high five or like a clap about like thank you, Kezia, for being
We got
honest
dinner
with
the other
us.
night.
Yeah,
I won't say it for sake of other people, but
yeah,
yeah, because I don't think like because I don't have this conflict at all, or like
really.
yeah, there's no qualms about saying what I think, so it doesn't even occur like it's only really just occurred to me like, oh,
Yeah.
you I don't know what I thought before. I guess just thought you probably agreed with me on everything, but no, now I guess it's like in my consciousness that actually like you are withholding, and I can like see the moments where you're like,
Yeah.
and so now I just say like you can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Like
And it's like a lesson for me on like building my own territory. And that was kind of like I've always that's what I realized when I saw like that the scare fright was really involved in it as well. Was just like I've always kind of been on the periphery of other territories because I have
other big personalities.
other very big personalities in our family. And like if I want to like solve these conflicts, like I have to be able to like build my own territory and like to feel like yeah, that's like a safe thing to do. That like people will come to my space and people like metaphorical perceptual space. And yeah, it's been like a very cool little journey. And like I said, it's still in like it's massively downgraded, but it's still a present conflict that I'm working on. But